Hello everyone. Hi. Today's topic of discussion is boundaries, and we are going to talk about what really boundaries are. Nowadays everyone is talking about boundaries. So we will talk in detail about like what they really mean, and how you can establish set boundaries, and is it really good to have boundaries with your own family. Okay, because the people whom we are going to set boundaries with are our family members, right? So we are going to have a lot on this topic, and we will be discussing with Priyashi. She is a psychologist, and she should be joining us shortly. She's more of a life coach, so there's a lot that we can learn from her today. So I'll just send her an invite, and let us wait for 2 to 3 minutes for her to join. I've invited her. I'm just waiting for a few minutes for her to join. In the meanwhile, guys, if you all are having any questions, because boundaries was such a topic, I remember we had some reels on boundaries, and there were so many questions coming across. Okay, people were like, mainly having questions about how to set boundaries with your in-laws, mainly. Okay, and how to have this discussion, because this is a very uncomfortable discussion to have with your spouse and or partner. So how to have that discussion so that you're not offending the other person, but at the same time you're setting some healthy boundaries so you can maintain your own sanity. So there were lots of questions which we had, and I would love if y'all are having any questions, please do post those questions in comments, and we will take up all the questions with Priyashi. Okay, it looks like there's some issue. Priyashi is not able to join us at the moment. There's some issue. Yes, so guys, please send your questions. I'm waiting for your questions. Hi,
Hello.
Priyashi.
Hi, Neelofa.
You're able to
How is...
hear me?
Yes, am I audible to you?
Okay. Yes, yes, perfectly. Lovely
Great.
to see you.
Same here, same here.
It's been such a long time.
Yes, it is, it is. So, how have you been?
Good, I'm good. How are you?
I'm doing good. And I've seen new mother doing so much for so many people out there, so many mothers, huh? You're doing so well. I really
Thank
appreciate
you so
your
much.
efforts.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much, Priyashi. That means so much. We also had some really good reviews today, and so it just made up our day. It's like, there's nothing better, than having this feeling by knowing that people are really like, the content that we are creating is really
That,
helping people out there.
that's
Okay. So we are having some issue with Vidya joining us. Okay, it looks like she's in some poor network area. So I will start off with the questions. Okay, if she joins in the between, we will just take her in. Okay. Yeah. So I will start off with my first question to you. Today's topic of discussion is boundaries. Okay. And let us first understand what is what boundaries are, because this is a relatively new term. People were not used to talking about boundaries a couple of years ago. So what do we mean when we say that we want to set some boundaries?
well, I like the normal notion of boundary is, like something with which, which bounds us to a certain place, or to a certain person, right? And that's how we all have been hearing this word boundary, right, since our childhood. And we have, like most of us have thought about boundaries as certain rules, and rules are meant to be broken. Well, so somehow people thought, well, not having boundaries in a relationship is the best way, but it isn't. So, boundaries when it comes to the terms of relationships, it is something which is of so significance that it uh, makes sure that we continue to be in a safe place.
Hmm.
So, boundary here, the word is not as how it sounds or as how we have been understanding it since so many years now. But
Right.
boundaries in relationship is just completely different. When we talk about when we talk about relationship, it is like you know when there is relationship, there is not just relationship with the other person, but there is also relationship with the self. And that
Right.
boundary that we are talking about right now is actually the one which makes us continue this relationship with the self while having this relationship with the other person as well.
Wow,
So,
that's
but if
so
we don't
amazingly. You put it up so amazingly.
so like it's like if we don't put that boundary, everything is just so diffused,
Right.
right? Yeah. So before understanding boundary, we all must understand that we have relationship with others and we have relationship with the self. And the boundary is that thin line which makes sure that both the relationships are nurturing and are blooming together.
Lovely. That was just a lovely explanation, Priyashi. Thank you for that. So now, since we understood that, okay, boundary is something that is really significant and we need to have it, right? I mean, that's what we can conclude, that we really need to have boundaries in every relationship so that we do not lose ourselves in the process of having that relationship.
Right.
Right? If I've put it up, if I've done some justice in putting it up like this. So, what are the negative effects of not setting your boundary?
Well, let's understand ourselves as water. Yeah, and everything about us is just like water. So suppose um, you pour water into something and there is no boundary to it. What would happen?
It will be all over the place.
It would be all over the place. And then there are so many different flavors of relationship we have in life, right? So imagine there are different flavors of water, and there is this empty space and no boundaries at all. Then and we
Hmm.
pour all the water together in it. What would happen?
It would all mix up.
It will all get mixed up. Right? So that's what exactly happens. And when this happens, we forget or say the relationship with ourselves which attains too much importance in our life is something which gets completely vanished, that we become so delusional about, well, do I even have a relationship, or am I supposed to even have a relationship with myself? So there are people out there who do not have awareness or do not have insight about how important it is to have a relationship with the self, or what this self is really. Some
Right.
people have only watched themselves from the lenses of different roles, that we play in life, like a mother, a daughter, a father, a sister. So, if we continue to carry that lens with ourselves all the time, we only see ourselves from those lenses. But there is somebody who is carrying or who is wearing that lens as well,
Right.
right? So, if the lens or the frame has already these labels, or which, and these labels like mother, daughter, these already have some, preconceived notions about what a good mother looks like, or what a good daughter looks like, what a good husband looks like, then definitely we are watching ourselves or perceiving ourselves from those particular labels and notions, which are not even
Right.
ours, right?
Right.
So it is important to see that, well, I'm not the one with all these labels, but the one who is wearing these labels. So it's better to put off the spectacles, keep it aside for some time, and see ourselves. So that's how we, discover ourselves, and that's when we start to develop this relationship with ourselves. And there are so many people out there, like it happens especially with the girls and with the boys as well after a point when they get married. So once somebody gets married, they often feel that they do not know who they really are. Women, they go through a lot of identity crisis as well, because sometimes they think that, well, I, I should behave in a certain way, but this is something what I have learned from my maternal home, and this is something what my in-laws are expecting me to be. This is something how a good wife I can be according to my husband, or this is something I could be best mom of the world according to my child, according to the society. But in all that, who we are, where we are. So it's like we need to make sure that we are setting aside those labels and looking at ourselves as well. And if we don't, well, definitely we lose ourselves.
Lovely way you put it, Priyashi. I can't say anything more than that. Yeah, just lovely way you have explained it. It's really important. Yeah, I am married and I can really, I can completely agree to everything that you said. Like, I could actually imagine myself because we have to fit ourselves in so many different perspectives. Like, everyone is having some different kind of expectation from us. And, in the process of meeting everyone else's expectations, we tend to lose our own identity. Yeah, I cannot agree more than that. And I personally, I'm not generalizing it, but personally, I felt that, after becoming a mother, this impacted me a lot more than, before I was a mother. Because after becoming a mother, it was like, a complete shift in my life, a complete shift from, being like completely selfless. There was no time actually to, think about myself or myself as a person, to care for myself. And that's when I realized that it's very important, because if I don't end up caring for myself, I will not be happy. And then it's just, that negative effect is going to pass down. It's going to have a cascading effect on everyone else who's around me. So
True.
yeah, that's like, it's very important, whatever you mentioned. So we spoke so much about boundaries, what boundaries are, why we need to have them, what are the negative effects of not having boundaries. Now, the main question comes in, okay? That how do we set boundaries? Because, nobody perceives me as myself, okay? Everyone, if I'm like, my husband sees me as his wife, my child sees me as his mother, my parents see me as their daughter. My in-laws see me as their daughter-in-law. Okay, I'm a sister-in-law. Like, there are so many relationships. Okay, it's like, it's all like, completely like a cobweb, and everyone looks at me, from their perspective. Then they have that kind of expectations from me. That, okay, I need to do this, I need to do that, and see, maybe like, there are no. It's not like every time everyone is just forcing me to do those things. I myself tend to develop that kind of thing, that okay, this is, I don't even know whether they're having that expectation from me. Somehow it's built up, and that stays in my head that yes, this is what is expected from me. And that's how I try to, like, mold myself, like, in that frame. But then, this sudden realization that, okay, now boundaries are very important. And yeah, if I don't have boundaries, I'll end up losing myself. I'll not be happy. And yeah, it's all like, very important. So, okay, I get the concept. But how do I go about and set boundaries now? Because I have been with those people since, years. And they already know me as that person. I am already, like, behaving in a certain way. Maybe I would not behave in that way if I do not have those expectations set. So I don't know, maybe I don't know how am I putting it, but then, I'm already behaving it in that way. I'm giving them what they are expecting, or I'm even giving them more than what they're expecting. And now all of a sudden I have this realization, and I'm saying that no, I want to set boundaries. People are going to get offended, right? My partner may get offended if I'm setting boundaries with him. Especially my in-laws may get offended if I'm setting boundaries with them. So how do we do this? What is a healthy way in which, we are not offending people, or we are not impacting other people's life in the process of, like, making a better life for ourselves?
Well, I think firstly, we must understand that setting up boundaries is not something that would be discouraging for the relationship. It is something that enhances the relationship, right? And if there is somebody in our environment who is getting impacted or who is feeling offended, because you are maintaining or you are developing certain boundaries, right? Then it's their problem, it's their issue. There is something which is reflecting about them. Yeah, it isn't. It has nothing to do with you, right? As all of us, we all go through a lot of experiences, right? And based on those certain experiences, we end up developing our belief system, and from that belief system forms our perception. From that perception we make decisions in our lives, and based on those decisions in our life we tend to choose how to react, how to respond, what to say to other people in
Right.
our lives, right? So as much as we know the all of it about us, we must remember, we must remain compassionate towards other people in our lives as well. And we must understand that when they are reacting to something, you know, they don't have right for, then it means that whatever that reaction is coming from is actually their experience of life, because they have also gone through so much.
Right.
They also have certain unhealed part within themselves, which still needs recovery and healing,
Right.
right?
So
So we
is it safe to say, Priyashi, that like say, for example, like I want to set up some boundaries. I'm just taking a hypothetical situation. I'm not really setting up some boundaries with my mother-in-law. Maybe I've already done that. So I'm just talking about a situation. I want to set up some boundaries with my mother-in-law. Okay, and since we also have that generation gap. If I talk about my sister or my sister-in-law, brother-in-law, or brother, maybe things are a bit different because we may end up understanding each other to a certain level. But if I'm trying to set up some boundaries with that generation gap, okay, and I don't receive good response. What is the best way to approach it? Is the best way to approach it through communication? Like I just make her sit down, like have some nice tea with her, and then have a nice chat and actually explain the problems that I'm facing, and then try to and then expect that she will understand those problems. What is the right way to do this?
well, the right way is not to expect.
Okay.
Yeah. See, expectation, our expectations would be fulfilled by the other person or not, is something which is their decision. And we cannot take charge of their decision.
Okay.
And since we don't have that control in us, we don't have that control, in their life,
Okay.
right? So
Right.
and if I start expecting, well, okay, I'm going to talk and she's going to understand. I'm going to talk and she's going to understand. Then this part is probably something which is never going to happen.
Okay. Yeah,
Yes.
makes
So
sense.
whenever, right. So whenever we attempt anything in any kind of relationship, we must make sure that A, we only have charge about what are we going to do. What actions am I going to take? How am I responsible? What am I going to do about this particular situation? How am I going to react? How am I going to respond? Right?
Right.
So these are
Right.
the things that are still, in my power, because I
Control.
can
Yeah.
only work on myself,
Right.
right? I can only change myself. I cannot change the other person, right?
Right.
And as much right I have of freedom of speech and freedom of choice, right? Similarly, they also have.
Right.
Right? So whenever it is about relationship, yes, we must communicate. It is a very nice gesture. It is a very nice, a very powerful tool as well, right? But then there are different people's language is different. You know,
Okay. Yeah.
you may be speaking, expressing your love in a different language, and she will be, your mother-in-law will be expressing her love in a different love language. So different people have different love languages. So it's our responsibility, if we want to nurture our relationship, we must try to understand, we must try to speak, and we must try to hear. the other partner's love language as well. Be it anybody, like be it any partner, like be it mother-in-law, be it father-in-law, be it the husband or the child, anybody, including ourselves, right?
Right.
So focus
Yeah,
on the
it
love
makes sense.
language, try to speak to her in her love language, and do not expect. That is where you are taking care, responsibility about, for yourself, right? You
Right.
also need to protect yourself to not get hurt, right? That is your relationship with yourself. So you need to balance both relationship with yourself and relationship with your mother-in-law. So when you approach her, when you talk to her, make sure that you are carrying your space. You are carrying your relationship with yourself as well in the same word,
Right.
right?
Put it so elegantly. We have one question. We have a question from Aline. She says, what if I tried to set boundaries, but I am being isolated in return by my in-laws? That's her question. I think we already um, answered that, but if you want to add something more, Priyashi.
Well, so if they are not responding, or they are ignoring you in some way, or they are isolating you in some way, then you must try to ask yourself that what is what is it in me that's being hurt, if from their reaction. you know Whatever happens, whatever responses or whatever reactions we get from other people in our lives, and if that is something which is hurting us, we must always try to look beneath that hurt, where that hurt is coming from. Why is there a need, or why is there an expectation that they should not be isolating me?
Right.
Right? It may sound a little weird, but believe me, there are so many wounds that we all carry in our lives. And these, unexpected events that happen in our lives, which makes us feel sad and hurt, are actually the opportunities where, from which we can actually, go deeper in ourselves and identify the wounds which were left unhealed, and we can work with those wounds. So try to understand that, right?
Thank you.
Um, Two people in a relationship do not need to be perfect for each other. You know, like you are perfect for yourself. You do not need to be perfect for somebody else. The truth is, we cannot be perfect for anybody else. We are just perfect in our own sense of self. We know how to deal with ourselves.
That
We
was
are
such
there
a
to.
powerful statement, Priyashi. I just want to take a pause over there. It's a very powerful statement which you just gave out, that we cannot be perfect for anybody else. We are our perfect people, but then we cannot really be perfect. All the issues arise because of that need of being perfect for someone and trying to fit into their canvas of life. So that's when all the issues start cropping up. So you said it lovely.
I am glad that if it could help. Well, so I was saying that you are already perfect for yourself. Similarly, your husband is perfect for himself, your in-laws are perfect for themselves, right? But when it comes to relationship is not a place where two people have to be perfect for each other. They simply need to be perfect for themselves, and that comes with integrity in their self and acceptance about how they are, and with the humility and awareness that yes, there is still some space where I can become a better version of myself than I currently am. Right? With this understanding and humility, when two people come together in a relationship, that relationship must actually be a place where they can just be themselves. So, relationship is not, something in between two people. It is something that two people create for themselves. So it's like a space. It's like a home, invisible but home, right? And if two people come closer and think, well, yeah, okay, I accept myself the way I am and I'm perfect. Similarly, my partner also accepts themselves and they are perfect for themselves. I do not need to criticize this person. I simply need to love this person. And when it comes to love, acceptance is the most important key about love. So we simply need to accept our partners the way they are.
Thank you,
So,
Priyashi. Lovely, lovely explanation. The way you explain it is so calming, you know. Just watching you talk is like, you know, is giving me a sense of calmness. I have one question for you, but before I ask my question, there's like, you know, Vedehi is having a question. So she's asking, love the person in your love language or theirs? I did not really get that question. If you are able to get it, you can answer it, Priyashi.
Yeah, yeah, sure. But I will explain question for all the people who are live with us. So she wants to say that whether we should express our love, like I should express my love to my partner in my love language or his love. That's what she's trying to portray. So, well,
Yeah.
I think it
Okay, I get it now.
depends on the compatibility between two people, right? And all of us who are here and who are listening to this live, just think about your relationship with your partner and figure out at what level of compatibility you both, share this relationship. So, are you able to understand what is the love language of your partner? And are you able to speak that language? Are you skilled enough to speak that language? If not, then are you taking actions to gain that skill and start speaking that language with your partner? Yeah? If yes, if all the answers are yes, 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 then definitely go ahead and share your love, express your love in their love language.
Hmm.
If it, if it is the possibility, right?
Right.
Sometimes what happens, people are not skilled enough to speak their partner's love language and they are not even working with it. So if you are that somebody, start working on it. It would really help in your relationship and it would also, enhance the compatibility in between the two. Secondly, if you are speaking your love language, does your partner know that this is your love language? This is the way you express your love? And is he able to decipher it, understand it, respond to it? Right? So we need to do, we need these questionings to be done at both the ends. The best way would be, although, to speak the love language of our partner.
Okay. Okay. Thank you. Thank you for that. This was something like really new coming to me. I'll try that. Okay. Yeah. We have another question, Priyashi, from Vidya. My question is just taking a hold. So let me ask the question that Vidya has. How to understand our self space?
Self space.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, I think she is referring to the space that we have just for ourselves, right?
Yeah.
If that self space means something else for you, then please do share.
She's having another point added. Okay, so she's saying subconsciously we expect from the other person. That's more of statement. I don't know like how to put it together. So how do we understand our self space? And I think these both are separate questions. So maybe we can take them separately. If you are
Okay.
able to get it, Priyashi.
Yeah, I got the self space question, but I didn't get the another part. Well, I'll try to respond to the self space.
I think second, yeah, maybe you can answer the first one. I think I got the second one and I'll reiterate it for you.
Yeah, yeah, sure. So when it comes to having a space for your own self, it is very important to find time for it and to understand like more and even prior to this one must understand what is this self that we are talking about, right? There are psychological selves that we have in our mind, just the way we perceive other people we also perceive ourselves and we call it self-perception. And based on this self-perception, we all have an image about ourselves in our mind. And there is also a voice, there is also an inner voice, and we sometimes can actually hear ourselves speaking in our head, right? Without actually speaking. Isn't that amazing?
Yes.
Well, how wonderful mind is. So, as we are talking about self-perception, there are two types of self as well. One is the ideal self, another is the real self.
Mm.
And they are more like that. They're overlapping like this. Yeah. So if this is ideal self and this is real self, they are most majorly like overlapping like this. If they are much far away and the overlapping space is quite low, then that is like an alarm for our psychological health. Because real self is, defining how we are, how I really feel, what I really think, how I really react in my mind, or what things I just keep to myself, right? And the ideal self is the part which signifies how I behave or how I want to be, how I want myself to be like, you know, what are my ideal expectations about my ideal self. Yeah. So sometimes what happens, people continue to, play out these two selves differently in different situations. So what happens is after a point, this real self and ideal self, they start to, you know, differentiate from one another. So more the distance, major is the psychological issue. And the more integrity they have, more overlapping, and when they become one, that's when we call the most integrated self,
Lovely.
right? So it is not bad, or it is not, I can't say that it is really bad to have an ideal self. We all must have, because it actually, helps us or motivates us to grow further as a human being, right? To do something better. And but all I talk about is make sure that you maintain a good amount of integrity between the two,
Right.
right? So that's one. So that's what self really is. What you think about yourself is that self. Okay.
Right.
Besides that, some people have a lot of distorted self-perception about themselves. They have formed their sense of self-perception just based upon what they have borrowed from other people's perception about themselves. So it's like borrowing somebody else's spectacles and wearing it. So if somebody think I am mad, and I say I am mad because he said so,
Right.
so I'm borrowing his words to define or to think or to perceive myself. Right. So these are certain things which one must make sure that they are checking. These are the checkpoints that one must be very very careful about, right? And
Right.
once you know that you have that integrity and you have a nice self perception, that perception which is coming just based upon your belief system and your experiences, not somebody else's, then you must maintain that time for yourself so that you can sustain that self perception for yourself which is working in your favor. So, how to have that self space? In order to have the self space, one must make sure that they are getting out time for themselves. When you have time for yourself, this does not mean that you are just out there on the internet and scrolling reels or watching Netflix, right? Or doing shopping. No, that's not. Or pampering yourself going to a salon. No, that isn't what it is about. Having your self space is like cutting down from the things which drain your energy down. Yeah. It means that you are taking a time and you are nourishing yourself. You are taking a time and you are making sure that you are maintaining your integrity in between your real and ideal self. That you are making sure that you are moving ahead, you are progressing in your life as a better human being than what you were yesterday. That's
Right.
what having your self space is. And
Yeah.
if in order to do all these things, you need to cut down some people or cut down some of your time that you are giving to some other people in your life at presently, there is nothing wrong in it because you are nourishing yourself. And it is only our responsibility to maintain a healthier relationship with ourselves. Nobody else is going to come and be at our place and make that relationship for me, right?
Right.
Only I can fulfill that place in my life for myself. nobody else can fit in, right? So it's our responsibility, not only I can fulfill it. So if anybody comes to you and says, that's selfish, you're being selfish, then say it proudly, yes. And I am glad that I'm being selfish. There is nothing wrong in being selfish.
Right.
It-
Thank you
People
so
want,
much. Yeah, yeah, that like um just the way you explained, like that how we how we have an ideal self and what we actual are. I think that is something which I'm talking for myself. I can spend hours together, just analyzing that, because till now I haven't thought about it. So yeah, I think I've got some good homework today to do, and it's going to take me a couple of weeks to complete it and get back to you. But yeah, the way you portrayed it and the way you mentioned it, it was like it really like made me it set me thinking, and I hope that everyone else who is watching and who will be watching this video later, it helps them in to start thinking in that way, in that to develop that way of thinking. It's difficult. I think it's difficult, right? Because just thinking about analyzing it in that way is putting some kind of pressure on my head. So I think it's going to be a task.
yes, it is, it is. It does require a lot of guts and courage
Yeah,
to unleash what's within us and to recognize it.
yeah, right. Yeah. So yeah, I will come up with my question now. We had few more comments, but I've just lost them. I'll come up with my question to you, and I'll just try to get the previous comments, and I'll try to post them to you after our session. The last question that I have for you, Priyashi, that we spoke about, having this identifying the self space, how boundaries are important, how we really need to have boundaries so that we do not end up losing ourselves in the process of having multiple relationships in our life, and so on and so forth. And we spoke about so many things, and in order to do that, okay, when we are talking about boundaries, it's more involving two people who are in a relationship, because you are setting some boundaries because you don't want the other person to cross that boundary and get into the area which you have held sacred only for yourself. You do not really want anybody else into that space, okay? Now, okay, fine. As I understood with whatever you explained, that we can set boundaries, and yeah, we need to be we can try to communicate to the other person about these are my boundaries, but have no expectations in return, because the way we have our freedom, they too have their freedom of not accepting our boundaries or whatever. And yeah, it may end up into maybe people may not like it initially. They may never like it. We don't know. We don't know. It's all it's all different for different people out there. So okay, I set up my boundaries, and I gathered up all the courage. I spoke about it to whosoever I really want to set my boundaries with. And now ideal scenario is that that person is not going to understand it. Okay, that's what most of the people end up facing, because whatever questions we had, it was like everyone came up with the same issue, that yes, I want to set boundaries, or I have set boundaries, but the response that I have from the other person is not welcoming. Okay, obviously people did not take it as a take it in a nice way and reacted negatively, and ended up isolating that person, or many more issues. Fine, even if I'm that strong and I gathered up all my courage that this is what I want and I will do it, there will still be the tiny bit of guilt in me that I have done this. Okay, I can say it out of my own personal experience. I have set so many boundaries in my life. I have spoken about so many things to all the different people in my life that this is what I want, this is what I'm looking for. One thing is that people tend to assume that you are selfish, and that is okay. Like like it's they are thinking and they want to perceive me in that way. That's fine. But then apart from people's perception of me, there's something like this overall process. It kind of did get some guilt in me, thinking that did I do this wrong? I set some boundaries for myself, like saying that maybe weekends I don't really want to visit my relatives. Okay, because weekends I want to be for myself, or I want my weekends to be in such a way that I want to spend that time with my baby, with my partner, because that is what I really want. And I avoided visiting relatives, and I avoided relatives visiting me during the weekends. Okay, so this is one example that I did. Now people all assumed too many negative things about me, and that was okay. I still continued doing it in that way because that's what I felt is right for me and it's healthy for my family. But over the period of time I did develop some kind of guilt, that is it something right that I'm doing. I'm just giving you one example. People can feel guilty for so many different ways, because when you are talking to some person and that person is reacting negatively to whatever things you have to say, somewhere down the line you will have that guilt in you. How do we overcome that guilt? I think this is the most common thing that most of us face, especially women. It's not that much on men because there are very less expectations from men altogether in our society. If I talk if I talk about the society in which we live in, everything is expected from the woman, but the man has really less part to play in the different relationships in his life. It's just that if he's existing, it's more than enough. So yeah. So how do we overcome that guilt? Can you suggest something? Do you have some tips that may help people to overcome that guilt and not feel guilty for setting up boundaries for themselves?
Well, one, uh, there are so many things I want to say. uh, one, uh, as you said that it's something which has been coming to you over a period of time again and again, right? You were on one path, you were at it, you were taking care of yourself, and you were maintaining your boundary, and you were making sure that you are nurturing yourself, your relation with your baby and with your husband, right? But what about others? Right? One is that if anybody sees any kind of pattern and say that after a period of time this particular emotion comes in me and it stays, you know, I feel that well now guilt is like has just made a small hut in my heart somewhere. Yeah,
Whole, actually, whole.
hole. Hmm? So it's because it's been trying to come to you again and again. It's been poking you
Right.
again and again, right? So let's imagine this emotion is a baby, and if this baby wants something. What would the baby do to you?
Right.
It would cry, right? Or if the baby is little bit, little bit older, that the baby can actually speak or do some gestures, the baby will call you. Crying is also crying, crying is also calling, right?
Yeah.
So the baby will call you. If you won't hear, mommy, it will start to poke you, right? And if you would continue to be in denial, you won't look at it. The baby will still continue to poke you and will start hurting you after a point, right?
Right.
Yeah. And so are our emotions. We just need to hear what our emotions are here for.
Okay.
Just like the physical pain that we experience in body, whenever we get pain, we acknowledge it. We hear it, we sense it, and we acknowledge it. We don't go in denial, right?
Okay.
And we don't
Yeah.
say it's not happening, or we don't try to cover it up. Okay, later, yeah, we figure it out, and we know, okay, if my knee is paining, I need to go and get a checkup from the ortho, right? If my head is paining, I need to go to a neuro, XYZ, right? Similarly, when it comes to thoughts and emotions, if Your thoughts and emotions are coming to you in a specific pattern again and again. They have a message for you. You must listen to them. And they would continue to come to you until and unless you acknowledge them, you hear them, and you get the lesson for what they have come to you for.
Okay.
So that feeling of guilt is coming to you again and again because there is a lesson beneath it that life wants you to learn.
Okay.
So,
I'm sorry. Yeah, please continue, Priyashi. But it's like, it's so deep. The way you were, when you were talking, I was actually thinking about it. It's very deep. I may get lost thinking about what to do. Anybody may get lost because, um, it's just like very difficult to identify that why I am feeling guilty, and whether the reason for which I'm feeling guilty is really important. Yes, maybe it's important, that's why it's coming to me, but is it right? Is it the right thing for me to feel guilty? And so many things. I'm sorry to interrupt you, please continue.
no, 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 you don't need to be sorry. Okay, we must never be sorry for sharing. Uh, well, I want to ask, like, were you a person, like, were you always like this, Nilufar? Who is maintaining her relationship with herself? Or were you a different person when you were a child?
Okay, you're asking me that question. Okay.
If you're
Okay.
comfortable,
Uh,
yeah.
no, when I was a child, I have given some thought to it. I have given more thought to it after I became a mother, because what I really feel is that when we were children, we did not hide any of our emotions. Whatever it is, we are cranky, we are all over the place. We don't care. We are in a mall, we are in a bus, we are in a train, wherever we are. If we want to cry, we cry. Okay, but as we grow, okay, because of all the social norms, we tend to enclose everything. We try to keep it hidden under a box. Like, we always have to maintain that decorum. You always have to be cordial, smiling. Like, you cannot really show what you really are. So if I have to answer your question, no, I was not like this when I was a child. As a child, I was like more open. I was not scared or afraid of what somebody else is going to think about me if I'm going to express this emotion. That's how I was, and that's how all the children are. But as we continue to grow up, as we turn into adults, we tend to completely box up ourselves and try to put up a different face, a different picture of ourselves, that this is how we are. The way you said about your real self and your ideal self. Okay, so that ideal self comes into being. That ideal self is created with whatever has been going on around you, with whatever you have been soaking in. Okay, and then you tend to be that ideal self. Okay, and when those guilt feelings come in, your ideal self would not have done what your real self did, and that's why all these guilt feelings are coming in. So now my question is, the question that I asked you was that, how do I overcome this? How do I really overcome this? I want, because I cannot really live with that guilt feeling. Okay, and it's not only about me what I'm talking about. Okay, I'm I took up this question on guilt because there are so many mothers out there, okay, who face that guilt each and every day of their life. Okay, I'm saying this with confidence because I've spoken to, if not thousands, hundreds of mothers. Okay, hundreds of women, and today's women of our generation, who are living with that guilt. Okay, how do we get rid of it? If you can share something that will help them, it would be really good, a good start, a place where they can start with, and then eventually, yeah, definitely, if they need more help, then they have to come to a person who can really help them out.
Sure, sure. So, as I said earlier, that this guilt is coming, this emotion is coming because it has a message for you. That message is a new learning, right? New learning. It's new, means it's something we haven't learned yet. Or probably we know, but we haven't accepted it in us, right? Maybe our ideal self knows it, but maybe my real self is not able to practice it yet, right? So, one is this, that whenever it comes guilt, and whenever you feel guilt, just you can maintain a diary of yours, or you can create a new folder for yourself, and you can just try to write. A lot of times when we do this mental work, it becomes so foggy and so heavy, it's like a cloud over us, right? So it's better to always write down when we are having this introspection within ourselves, right? So you can write down in your journal that, well, why is this guilt, try what is this guilt trying to make me learn? Why is this coming to me, right? What do I still have to understand? What actually happened in the scenario where this guilt came in, right? What happened just before the guilt? What was the thought in my mind before I started feeling this? Suppose something happened, and then I thought something, and then I started feeling guilt. Oh, it happened because of me. Oh, I must have taken care about it. Now, just this sentence, if this was the thought, see, the thought says, I must.
Right.
Right? Now, this must is actually the cause of the guilt. There are no musts, there should be no musts. I have to use the word should while saying it. There should not be, there should be no must, there should be no shoulds in life. Life must be free and liberating, right? If we continue to fall and to just see whether we are, staying in a particular way or not, we are falling into a certain category or not, whether this is making them happy or not, then
Right.
definitely we are going to lose the experience of living life, because life is nowhere else. We are the life. So we must, make sure, we have to make sure nobody else can do that for us. So identify where the guilt is coming from, identify what thought leads to this guilt. Question that thought. Is this thought relevant? Is that thought correct? Sometimes there are thoughts like, I would never be able to a good daughter in law. Never. There is nothing like never in this world. Everything tends to change. So you are not going to be in the same, be the same daughter-in-law 2 years later as you are today, right?
Completely
Everything
agree.
tends to change, right? And that's the beauty of life. So relationships are variable, people are variable, roles are variable, responsibilities that come in lives are variable. The way we respond to them are is variable, The way we react is variable. Everything is variable. And that's the beauty of life, right? And then start to identify what is your real self, what is your ideal self, and try to bring them closer as one. Try to integrate both the self. And once you start working on that, there is this third point that I want to say, that I know that we all have so many roles to play, but we must not forget that we are also human and we are allowed to make mistakes and we are allowed to forgive ourselves just the way we forgive others. So do not go so harsh on yourself. You cannot make everybody happy, but you can definitely make yourself happy. So if this guilt which is coming to you is something which is stopping you to be happy, and that's the only ultimate thing that you can do, only you can do for yourself. So just forgive
Awesome.
yourself.
Awesome. I'm going to take so many things out of this session, and I think I myself, I'm really going to watch the session again because, I don't want to end up missing any of the points what you mentioned, Priyashi. It was just such an enlightening session, I would say, if I can use that word. It was beautiful. I'm feeling like, that I've learned so much, especially, the concept that you mentioned about your ideal self and your real self. I think that is something we really, really, really need to dig into. because it would eventually answer so many of our questions. And almost all the points that you mentioned in this session, Priyashi, they are like, priceless. I would really say, like, a big thank you. And it was really great. It was really great. I'm just feeling, that lightness in my soul. Like, I'm really feeling good after talking to you. It was awesome. And yeah, Vidya is also feeling good, watching us and listening to us. We miss you, Vidya.
Yes, we do. We
Yeah.
do. I was hoping to see you.
Yeah. Okay, so thank you so much, Priyashi, for taking out time and joining us. Thank you from both Vidya. Vidya has already written it. Thank you from both Vidya
Thank you
and
so
me.
much, Nitya. And thank you so much, Nilofer. You
Thank
both are
you.
doing wonderful work, and all the people who have joined us together in this live. And yes, like the questions that you have put forth were just so brilliant. I hope that they do help a lot of people. And it is your strength, which was able to identify these things while having this interactive session. So the light that you are experiencing or the lightness that you are experiencing right now is your lightness. So appreciate yourself more.
Thank you so much, Priyashi. I'm definitely going to do that. Happy weekend to you. And
Same to
thank you
you.
again. Thank you so much.
Thank
Bye.
you so much for having me. Bye bye.
Bye.